Lately, have you felt like you don't quite fit into your old life anymore? The conversations that used to feel fun now feel heavy. The goals that once lit you up don't inspire you the same way. The relationships that used to feel close suddenly seem distant, and you don't really know why. You just know something inside you is shifting, something real, something deep, something you can't quite name. The truth is, you're no longer the version of yourself you used to be. Your identity is changing before you even realize it, and the quantum field has already begun responding to this new version of you quietly but powerfully. This video will show you 7 clear signs, not vague spiritual signs, but quantum indicators that you're leaving your old timeline and stepping into an entirely different frequency. If you recognize yourself in these signs, don't be surprised. You're awakening, and your life is about to turn a new page. You know, there's a moment in life no one ever warns you about, a moment where nothing is wrong, but nothing feels the same either. It sneaks up quietly. You wake up one morning and realize the things that used to excite you don't spark anymore. Conversations that once felt warm now feel heavy. Goals you swore you wanted suddenly don't fit the shape of who you're becoming, and you sit there thinking, did I lose my fire? Did I get lazy? Is something wrong with me? But deep down, beneath the noise, beneath the confusion, something whispers, no, you're not falling apart. You're outgrowing the version of yourself you used to be. It's subtle, so subtle that most people miss it the first time. You start noticing tiny fractures in your old life. Habits you can't force anymore. Relationships you can't shrink yourself into. Dreams that don't feel like yours even if they once were. And it's disorienting because you haven't stepped into the new version yet. But the old one is already dissolving. That in-between state is what makes you question everything. You feel like you're floating between timelines, like you're in a hallway between 2 doors, one closing softly behind you, one opening very, very slowly in front of you. And the scary part, you don't recognize yourself in either direction. This is where most people panic. They think they're losing direction, losing passion, losing themselves. But what's really happening is far more profound. Your identity is shifting faster than your mind can explain. Your inner observer is changing. And when the observer changes, your entire reality has to rearrange itself around that new center. It's not burnout, it's not anxiety, it's not apathy, it's transformation. Raw, unpolished, uncomfortable transformation. You're not unmotivated, you're misaligned with who you no longer are. And until you understand this moment, you'll keep trying to force yourself back into a version of you that simply doesn't exist anymore. So before we go any deeper, before we talk about the quantum mechanics behind this shift, before we decode why your reality suddenly feels unfamiliar, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're transitioning. And the 7 signs you're about to hear will make everything you've been feeling finally make sense. Here's the part most people never see coming. When you start to outgrow your old identity, your mind thinks something is wrong. But your deeper awareness knows something is finally right. Because identity isn't just who you think you are. It's the frequency you broadcast into the world. It's the lens your consciousness uses to observe reality. And in the quantum sense, the observer matters more than the observation. Let me break that down gently. No complicated physics, no heavy metaphysics. Just the simplest truth. Reality doesn't respond to who you pretend to be. Reality responds to who you are at the level of identity. Your identity is the silent signal you're sending into the field. Every decision, every reaction, every expectation, they all come from that signal. So when your identity starts changing, your entire reality begins to reconfigure around the new signal. Even before you consciously understand what's happening, it's like updating the operating system of your inner self, but still trying to run old programs that no longer work. And this is the mechanism behind your confusion. Let's slow it down. Identity equals frequency. You don't choose your frequency with positive thinking. You don't raise it by repeating affirmations 20 times a day. Your frequency changes when you change, when you stop being the old observer and begin seeing life through a new lens. Most people never notice this shift. They mistake it for mood swings, or loss of passion, or existential crisis. But on the quantum level, a more accurate translation would be, your old frequency expired. The field can't keep delivering experiences that match who you used to be because that version of you is no longer observing reality. And the quantum field is loyal. It mirrors the observer. It organizes itself around the identity you embody. So when your identity shifts, even just a few degrees, it sends a ripple through your external world. You see it in your relationships. You feel it in your career. You sense it in the way your priorities rearrange themselves without permission. This is why certain people start falling away. Not because they're bad, not because you screwed up, but because the version of you that once resonated with them is gone. And the new you, the one emerging, it simply vibrates on a different layer of reality. Identity is a contract with reality. Most people don't realize this, but identity functions like a contract. This is who I am. Therefore, this is the kind of life I expect. Therefore, these are the experiences reality will bring. The moment you stop agreeing with your old self, even quietly, even privately, that contract begins to dissolve, and reality responds, not gradually, not politely, immediately. But here's the twist. Reality responds before you understand the shift, which is why it feels so chaotic. Your new frequency is already broadcasting, but your mind is still trying to interpret life through your old settings. You feel the split. One part of you is expanding. Another part is trying to hold shape. And the tension between those two creates the discomfort you've been experiencing. It's not punishment, it's calibration. Reality is rematching itself to the new observer. Observer before outcome. Think of it like this. Two people can be in the exact same situation, same job, same apartment, same relationship. But if their inner observer shifts, the meaning of everything around them changes instantly. Same life, different frequency, different experience. Because the field doesn't respond to the surface of your life. It responds to the consciousness inside the life, which is why you've felt disconnected from old dreams, uninterested in old roles, unmotivated by old desires. The desires weren't the problem, they were simply built by an identity that no longer exists. It's like watching a movie you once loved but suddenly realizing it doesn't hit the same anymore. Not because the movie changed, because you did. Energy before behavior. Another part of the mechanism is this. Your behavior hasn't changed yet, but your energy has. So your life starts shifting before you act like the new version of you. This is why you feel misaligned. You haven't stepped into the new behaviors, but the old ones no longer fit. You're standing between versions and the quantum field is rearranging itself in real time. This liminal space, this in-between, is fragile, sacred, and wildly uncomfortable. It's the cocoon phase, but you're awake for it. The mind hates this phase. Your mind wants stability, it wants predictability, it wants to understand, but identity shift is not mental, it's energetic. It happens underneath thought, so your mind tries to interpret what it doesn't understand. Why am I not motivated? Why don't I enjoy what I used to? Why do certain people drain me now? Why do I feel like I'm watching myself from a distance? Because the mind is receiving outdated information from a self that no longer exists. You're trying to read a new chapter with old glasses. Your system is rewriting itself. This is the mechanism. Your awareness expands. Your inner observer upgrades. Your nervous system begins to match the new frequency. Your preferences reorder. Your values shift. Your sense of self loosens. And all of this happens before your outer life has caught up. You are literally watching your identity dissolve while the next one is not fully formed. But here's the most beautiful part. In quantum terms, identity doesn't change because you decide to become better. Identity changes because your consciousness is ready to evolve. This shift is organic, inevitable, and deeply intelligent. You didn't cause it. You didn't imagine it. You didn't manifest it with vision boards. You grew into it. Your reality is simply adjusting its shape around the person you're becoming. You're not breaking down. You're breaking out. When the old self dissolves, it always feels like something is falling apart. But truthfully, something is falling away. Something that was never meant to walk with you into the next version of your life. This mechanism is not random. It's not chaotic. It's not personal. It's the physics of identity. It's how the field works. It's how consciousness updates itself. You're not losing your path. Your path is changing because you changed. And now that you understand what's happening inside you, now that you've seen the inner mechanics of this transition, you're finally ready for the next part. Because the question now becomes, how do you know for sure you're no longer the old you? How do you validate the shift you're sensing? That's where the 7 signs come in. And once you hear them, you'll realize you've been shifting identities long before you had the language to describe it. Now let's get into the part that makes everything click. Because once you understand the mechanism, what you've been feeling in your life suddenly becomes obvious. There are 7 signs, clear, undeniable signs, that you've slipped out of your old identity and stepped into a frequency your mind hasn't caught up with yet. Most people ignore these signs. They think they're mood swings, or phases, or something's wrong with me. But when you actually see them for what they are, you realize you've been shifting all along. So let's walk through them slowly, deliberately, honestly. See which ones speak directly to you. Sign 1. You can't tolerate low-vibration environments anymore. This is usually the first sign, and it hits quietly. Places you used to be okay with. Spaces filled with gossip, pressure, noise, complaining, suddenly feel too loud even when they're quiet. You sit in the same room with the same people hearing the same conversations. But instead of blending in, you feel your entire body saying, I don't belong here anymore. It's not judgment. It's not superiority, it's resonance. Your frequency moved on. Your surroundings didn't. And when those two no longer match, your whole system reacts to the mismatch. That's not you being sensitive. That's you outgrowing the atmosphere of your old self. Sign 2. People you once felt close to feel strangely distant. Nothing dramatic happened. No fight, no betrayal, no explosion, just distance. The emotional glue that used to hold the relationship together softens, releases, fades quietly. You talk, but it doesn't land the same. You listen, but it doesn't touch you the same. It's like the connection is fading on an energetic level before either of you fully understands why. This isn't loss. It's recalibration. You're shifting into a version of yourself that resonates with different people, different values, different levels of honesty and depth. Some relationships survive that shift, some don't. Both outcomes are correct. Sign 3. Old goals stop motivating you, even the ones you were proud of. This sign scares people the most. There were goals you once chased with passion, fire, even obsession, and suddenly they feel empty, not wrong, not bad, just irrelevant. It's like your heart quietly stepped away from the desires of your old identity. You didn't lose ambition. You didn't lose discipline. You just stopped wanting a life that belonged to a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. When a goal stops stirring something inside you, that's not failure. That's identity divergence. It means your consciousness has already selected a different future. Sign 4. You feel like you're in between timelines. This one is visceral. You're not who you used to be but you're not yet who you're becoming. You feel the old self drifting away. You feel the new self humming beneath the surface like something waiting to be born. But you're stuck in the middle. It feels like being in a hallway between two worlds. It feels like floating. It feels like transition without destination. Most people interpret this as being lost, but it's the opposite. It means a new timeline is already locked onto your field. You're in the transition window where the old timeline collapses and the new one prepares to unfold. This is the cocoon phase. And yes, it feels weird. But weird is a good sign. Weird means evolution. Sign 5. You observe instead of reacting. Here's a subtle shift that changes everything. You start watching your emotions instead of drowning in them. You catch yourself thinking before the thought becomes a spiral. You notice your triggers before they take over. You stop reacting on autopilot because something inside you has stepped back far enough to see the pattern happening in real time. This is the hallmark of a new observer. Your awareness is no longer fused with your identity. You're not blindly acting from the old self anymore. You're watching the old self dissolve. That moment, that tiny bit of space between stimulus and response, is evidence that your consciousness has upgraded. Sign 6. Things that used to scare you don't anymore. Not because you became fearless. Not because you're suddenly courageous, but because the you who used to fear those things is gone. Old fears belong to old identities. Once that identity dissolves, the fear collapses with it. You look at things that once paralyzed you, confrontation, change, endings, uncertainty, and instead of tightening, you feel curiosity, maybe even relief. Fear doesn't disappear through bravery. Fear disappears when the version of you that created it no longer has authority. This is why certain risks feel lighter now. This is why decisions feel cleaner. This is why endings feel less dramatic. It's not numbness, it's evolution. Sign 7. Something in your life is ending, and you can feel it. A relationship, a job, a chapter, a version of you. Something is reaching completion, and even if you don't know what comes next, you're not resisting the ending. The old you would have fought tooth and nail to hold things together. The current you knows better. You can sense an internal release that you can't explain logically. You can feel something closing so something else can open. Endings feel peaceful because you're no longer clinging from fear. This is one of the strongest signs that your identity has already shifted. Reality is reorganizing itself to match the new you, putting it all together. If you're experiencing these signs, you're not malfunctioning, you're not spiraling, you're not losing your spark, you're transitioning out of the identity that kept your old life in place and into the identity that will shape your next reality. These signs show up before the new version of your life arrives. They're confirmations from the field that your frequency has already changed. You are not who you used to be, and reality knows it even before you consciously do. Now that you've seen the signs, let's talk about what to do with them. Because once you realize you're no longer your old self, there's a crucial question that follows. How do you support the version of you that's emerging instead of dragging yourself back into who you used to be? You don't need discipline. You don't need a strict routine. You don't need to fix yourself. You just need a few simple practices that help your identity settle into its new frequency without resistance. Let's go through them gently, slowly, one layer at a time. Practice 1. Name the moment your old identity shows up. This one sounds simple, almost too simple. But it's unbelievably powerful. Every time an old pattern appears, the overthinking, the self-doubt, the people-pleasing, the shrinking, the hesitation, don't fight it. Name it. Just say quietly in your mind, this is the old me speaking, or this is an old pattern, not my identity. That one sentence creates a clean separation between you and the version of you that used to run your life. You're not suppressing the pattern, you're witnessing it, and witnessing dissolves identification. Old patterns lose power the moment you recognize they're not coming from your current self. They're echoes, ghosts, leftovers from a frequency you no longer live in. Name it, and the pattern passes like weather. Practice 2. Make micro choices that match the new you. Your new identity doesn't need grand gestures, it just needs small alignments. One honest conversation, one boundary you didn't set before, one moment where you follow your intuition instead of your fear, one decision that feels expansive instead of safe. Tiny choices, tiny shifts, tiny upgrades. Because the quantum field responds to consistency, not intensity. It reads your identity through the choices you make, not the promises you make to yourself. So ask yourself throughout the day, what would the new me choose here? Not the confident version of you, not the perfect version of you, not the fantasy version of you, but the real, emerging you. If you act even 1% in alignment with that version, the field adjusts instantly. Small choices can bend timelines faster than massive efforts. Practice 3. Follow the feeling of lightness. This is the compass your old self never had. Your new identity has a very specific energetic signature: lightness. Lightness in your chest, lightness in your breath, lightness in your body. When something matches your new frequency, you feel that little inner lift, subtle but undeniable. When something belongs to your old identity, you feel contraction, tension, heaviness, resistance, fatigue. So instead of asking, what's the right choice? Ask which choice feels lighter. Lightness is not impulsive. Lightness is not avoidance. Lightness is alignment. It's your internal confirmation that your identity is syncing with the timeline your consciousness already selected. Follow what feels light, and your path unfolds without force. Practice 4. Let the endings end. One of the hardest parts of identity shift is the urge to hold on to things you've already outgrown. People, roles, projects, dreams, habits. You feel them slipping, and a part of you wants to cling, to tighten your grip, to rescue something that once mattered deeply. But endings during an identity shift are not failures, they're alignments. If something is falling away naturally, without drama, without force, without you sabotaging it, let it fall. Not out of coldness, not out of pride, out of understanding. The new version of you cannot build a new life on top of structures designed for the old you. Letting endings end creates space for new frequencies to settle. Space is not emptiness. Space is invitation. Practice 5. Check in with yourself gently throughout the day. Not to micromanage your identity, not to stay positive, not to force awareness, just to ask one question. Am I being the old me or the emerging me right now? No judgment, no pressure, no expectation, just noticing. Because noticing shifts identity more than effort ever could. Awareness softens the grip of the old self. Awareness clears space for the new self. Awareness is the bridge between timelines. Every time you check in, your consciousness returns to the present moment, where your new frequency actually exists. The old identity lives in the past. Your new identity lives now. Every gentle check-in pulls you toward the now, toward the version of you who's waiting to be lived. Practice 6. Allow discomfort without personalizing it. Transition is uncomfortable. Your nervous system is recalibrating. Your identity is rewiring itself. Your old emotions are surfacing on their way out. But discomfort doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Discomfort means you're shedding. When sadness comes up, don't make it your identity. When anxiety rises, don't assume something's broken. When confusion appears, don't interpret it as failure. Say to yourself, this is just the old frequency releasing itself. Let the discomfort move through you without turning it into a story, without attaching identity to it. Without assuming it means you're slipping backward. You're not slipping, you're clearing. Shedding the old self always feels chaotic to the nervous system, right before the upgrade lands. Hold the moment. Don't label it. Let it pass. Practice 7. Speak to yourself as if you've already become the new you. Identity shifts faster when your inner dialogue stops speaking from the past. Replace I hope I become that person with I'm learning how to live as that person. Replace I don't know who I'm becoming with I'm meeting the new me a little more each day. Replace I'm not ready with I'm adjusting. These small changes in self-talk tell the field, I accept the shift. I'm not resisting it anymore. And when you stop resisting, the new identity stabilizes much faster. Because the truth is, you're not trying to become someone new. You're trying to stop being someone old. The purpose of these practices aren't about controlling your transformation. They're about allowing it. They help your inner world and outer world sync up. They help your consciousness and your behavior match. They help you move from something is happening to me to I am participating in what I'm becoming. Because identity shifts don't need force. They just need cooperation. And the moment you begin cooperating with your own evolution, everything in your life accelerates. Gently, clearly, unmistakably. Now that you know how to support the new you, it's time to understand how this shift integrates into your reality, not just within you, but around you. That's the next chapter. There's a moment in every transformation where the inner shift begins to spill into the outer world. A moment where your identity isn't just changing internally. Your life starts rearranging itself around that change. This part of the journey isn't loud, it's not dramatic, it's not cinematic, it's subtle, quiet, undeniable. Integration is when the new frequency you're holding finally starts shaping how you move, how you choose, how you perceive, and ultimately, how reality responds to you. Let's break this down gently because integration isn't something you do. It's something you allow. Integration begins with your inner world becoming more real than the outer one. Before transformation, your external circumstances felt like the blueprint of your life. Your job defined your path. Your relationships defined your worth. Your past defined your identity. Your fears defined your choices. But once the new identity begins settling in, something flips. Your inner world becomes the anchor, the thing you trust more than your environment. You stop checking how you feel based on what's happening outside. You start checking how you feel based on what's happening inside. The shift is small but seismic. From "I hope the world changes so I can feel aligned" to "I'm aligned first, let the world adjust." This is integration. Your inner identity becomes the source, not the byproduct. Integration shows up as new boundaries without force. Before the shift, boundaries felt like confrontation, like conflict, like something you had to justify. But the new you doesn't try to set boundaries. You become someone who naturally has them. Without raising your voice, without defending yourself, without explaining your worth. The new identity simply stops accepting what the old identity tolerated. People feel the shift, even if you never say a word. You don't become harsher, you just become clearer, and clarity reorganizes your relationships faster than effort ever could. Integration changes the way you make decisions. When you were your old self, decisions came from survival. What will keep me safe? What will people approve of? What feels familiar? What avoids discomfort? But as your identity upgrades, your decisions start coming from alignment instead. What feels like expansion? What aligns with my values now? What supports the person I'm growing into? What feels honest, even if it's scary? Suddenly, you're not choosing based on fear. You're choosing based on truth. And that's when life begins rewriting itself around your authenticity. You go from forcing outcomes and all to allowing direction. Integration makes old problems stop feeling personal. This is a beautiful and surprising moment in the journey. Things that used to hurt you deeply start landing differently. You notice a thought like, "I'm not good enough." And instead of collapsing into it, you see it as an old echo, a leftover pattern that no longer describes you. You feel anxiety rise, but instead of believing it's your anxiety, you recognize it's just energy passing through. You experience disappointment, but you don't make it a story about your worth. This is integration, when emotional waves don't define you anymore. They just move through you. Not because you became numb, but because you've stopped identifying with the waves. You've become the ocean, not the weather. Integration dismantles what doesn't belong to your new frequency. This is the part no one likes to talk about, because integration isn't only about adding, it's about releasing. When your identity shifts, your life begins dropping anything that contradicts the new frequency. Jobs that drain you, relationships built on old wounds, habits that sabotage your growth, environments that keep you small, roles you built out of fear, dreams that don't fit your future. And the release often happens without your conscious decision, because your new identity simply can't anchor itself in places designed for the old you. This phase can feel like loss, but it's not loss, it's alignment. Integration removes what no longer resonates so your new frequency has room to take form. Integration brings new synchronicities into your life. You'll start noticing it. People showing up at the exact right moment, opportunities appearing out of nowhere, conversations that shift your direction, situations that confirm your intuition, gentle nudges that lead you somewhere unexpected, but exactly where you're meant to be. These aren't coincidences, they're reflections. Reality always reflects your identity, so when your identity shifts, the world begins mirroring that shift with new openings, new alignments, new timelines. Integration isn't just something happening inside you, it's something happening around you. Life begins speaking your new language even before you fully understand it. Integration feels like peace you didn't have to earn. Not a loud peace, not a dramatic, life-changing peace, a quiet one, a grounded one. A peace that doesn't depend on everything going right. It's the peace that comes from not betraying yourself. It's the peace that comes from living as the emerging you, instead of clinging to who you used to be. It's the peace of inner alignment, a feeling of I may not know what's next, but I know I'm not supposed to go back. That peace is the signature of integration. When peace shows up without a reason, your identity has already changed. The truth of integration. Integration is not a single step, it's a merging of who you used to be, who you're becoming, and who you already are beneath it all. It's the moment where the inner shift and the outer life finally begin speaking the same frequency. When your choices match your clarity, when your behaviors match your identity, when your relationships match your boundaries, when your life matches your truth. Integration is the bridge between the internal awakening and the external transformation. And once this bridge stabilizes, something much bigger begins. You start influencing the collective field. That's where we're going next. There's something most people never realize about personal transformation. It's never just personal. When you shift, the entire field around you shifts. Your frequency doesn't change in isolation. It ripples outward, touching everything and everyone you're connected to. You don't just transform your inner world, you influence the collective. And when I say collective, I don't mean something abstract or mystical. I mean the actual human field we're all wired into, emotionally, energetically, psychologically. Let's take this slowly, because this is where your personal awakening connects to something much larger. You are part of a field that's constantly communicating. Every person emits signals through their behavior, their emotions, their presence, their awareness. These signals don't stay inside you. They radiate outward, interacting with the people around you, the spaces you enter, the relationships you shape. Most of the time, we're not aware of this. But the field is always speaking, always adjusting, always matching the strongest frequency in the room. So when your identity shifts, the field around you has to recalibrate too, not because you're forcing it, but because coherence is contagious. When one node in a network shifts, the entire network responds. That's what's happening inside your life right now. And it's happening globally on a scale humanity hasn't seen in a long time. Your shift makes it easier for others to shift. There's something remarkable about human awakening. When one person raises their awareness, it literally lowers the resistance for the next person to do the same. It's like you're carving a path through dense forest. The first person struggles, the next person walks more easily. The next barely needs a map. Your clarity creates clarity for others. Your boundaries inspire boundaries in others. Your self-honesty makes it safer for others to be honest. Your healing invites others to release their own pain. Identity is not just yours, it's part of a shared human template. When you evolve yours, you strengthen the collective potential for others to do the same. This is why certain truths are spreading faster now than ever. Why people across the world are waking up to patterns they tolerated for years. Why more people are questioning their lives, their roles, their beliefs, their relationships. The collective is shifting because individuals like you have shifted. Your transformation sends a signal, and the world feels it. Your frequency disrupts what's false. Even around you. Have you noticed how some people around you become uncomfortable with your growth? It's not because you've changed too much. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because your new frequency disturbs the old patterns they're still living in. Your clarity challenges their denial. Your boundaries expose their avoidance. Your honesty contradicts their self-narratives. Your growth threatens the stability of their old dynamics. You're not causing conflict, you're causing awakening. And while not everyone is ready for it, the field responds. Sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly, but always truthfully. Because when one person rises, the environment they're in must either rise with them or fall away. Your evolution does not happen in a vacuum. It reorganizes the energetic architecture of every connection you touch. We are entering a global shift in identity. Look around, listen closely. People everywhere are saying, I don't fit into my life anymore. I'm not the person I used to be. I can't pretend everything is fine. I feel something changing, but I can't explain it. This is not random. This is not coincidence. Humanity is shedding old identities, collectively, simultaneously, organically. It's not chaos, it's transition. People are waking up from versions of themselves that were built on survival, fear, conditioning, cultural scripts, and expectations that never belonged to them. You're not alone in this. You're part of a wider movement. A rising wave of awareness that is shifting the frequency of entire communities, cultures, and generations. When you shift your identity, you become a tuning fork for the people around you, and more people are tuning in than you think. Your presence becomes an invitation, not a force. This part is important. You don't need to teach anyone. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to preach your transformation. Your presence does the work. Your calm communicates. Your boundaries teach. Your authenticity liberates. Your alignment inspires. Your inner peace settles the nervous systems of others. Your clarity clears the fog for anyone standing near you. People feel it, even if they can't name what they're feeling. Your evolution creates a space where others feel permission to evolve too. This is how collective awakening works. Not through pressure, but through resonance. You become a stable frequency in a world full of static. And people naturally organize themselves around the signal you hold. This is why your shift matters. You're not just one person figuring out your life. You're part of the architecture of a new collective frequency. Every time you choose alignment over fear, the collective becomes safer for others to do the same. Every time you choose truth over denial, the collective becomes clearer. Every time you step into your new identity, the collective becomes more awake. Your shift isn't isolated, it's integrated into a much bigger field that is evolving through you. You are not just living a transformation, you are participating in one. And the moment you realize that, the moment you feel your role in this larger movement, something powerful happens. You stop resisting your evolution. You start honoring it. You start trusting it. You start realizing that your identity shift isn't a personal crisis, but a contribution. A contribution to a world that desperately needs people willing to live as their truest selves. And that brings us to the final part. Now that you know your shift matters for you and for the collective, what do you do next? That's where the CTA comes in, not as a command but as an invitation. So here you are, at the threshold of a new identity, a new frequency, a new chapter of your life. You've seen the signs, you've felt the shift, you've sensed the quiet ending of the old version of you and the unmistakable beginning of something deeper, clearer, truer. And now, you get to choose how you enter this next part of your evolution. Not with force, not with pressure, not with perfection, but with presence, with awareness, with a willingness to walk into the version of you that's already calling your name. So before you leave this video, I want you to take one breath with me, just one, in and out. Now ask yourself quietly, am I ready to stop negotiating with the old me? If the answer is even a soft yes, even a whisper of yes, then I want you to mark this moment, not for me, for you. Go into the comments and write these words. I'm stepping into my new self. Not as an affirmation, not as a mantra, but as a recognition, a declaration of the identity shift that has already begun unfolding inside you. When you write it, something anchors, something lands. You stop being a passive witness to your evolution and you become an active participant in it. And when others see your words, you'll help activate their shift as well. This is how collective awakening happens. One recognition at a time. If this video made you feel understood, if it helped you find language for something you've been sensing but couldn't explain, share it with someone else who might be on the edge of their own transition. Sometimes one video is the permission someone needs to let go of a version of themselves they've outgrown years ago. And if you want to keep walking this path, if you want more guidance, more clarity, more frameworks to help you navigate this identity shift with grace, hit subscribe. Not because you should, not because it helps the channel, but because you deserve to have a space where your awakening is mirrored, supported, and spoken to with the depth it deserves. Everything we explore here is designed for people who feel life shifting beneath their feet. People like you, people transitioning, people awakening, people remembering who they truly are underneath the noise, underneath the conditioning, underneath the versions of themselves they were taught to be. You're not watching this by accident. You didn't find this message randomly. You found it because the version of you that's emerging needed to hear it. So before you click away, take one last moment to honor your journey. You are not your old identity. You are not the patterns you outgrew. You are not the roles you performed for love, safety, or approval. You are the observer, the awareness, the consciousness that has finally outgrown its shell. Your new frequency is already here. Your new timeline is already forming. Your new reality is already responding to you. All that's left is for you to step into it fully. And that step begins now. Write it below. I'm stepping into my new self. I'll meet you in the next video, right where your transformation continues.